Chapter 21. Grey Days. Time was passing too slowly. The cold was just as piercing, and the weather just as gloomy and wet, while the school days were long and boring. To Ferry, however, nothing seemed to have changed. He could see no sign he was a fairy. Maybe I'm not a fairy after all. Maybe I'm just a boy who can see fairies, he tried to convince himself. Yet there was something different since his visit to Lavender Sky. He could feel it. It was there, waiting. Like a long-distance calling, getting closer with each day. Ferry decided he shouldn't tell anyone about Lavender. Or about himself. He didn't care what other people thought. But what about his friends? They didn't even believe him when he told them he could see fairies, let alone he was one. And his mother? It would have broken her heart to know he wasn't her real child. People are afraid of things they don't know, he remembered Lavender Sky telling him. Now all he wanted was that everything would be the way it was before. Ferry, what's with you? He heard Matilda shouting in his ear. It's the third time I'm telling you. What? What is it? He asked, as if awakened from a deep sleep. The school day was over and now he was heading home, in his best friend's company, as usual. I was asking if you could join us for Hallows Eve, she said, snorting. If there was one thing Matilda didn't like, it was people ignoring her. I don't know, Ferry stuttered. I've never been. You mean you've never been guising? Was Ben's turn to wonder. Ferry frowned. What is guising anyway? Ben took his usual know-it-all look. Guising is going to people's houses on Hallows Eve and singing a little song, or telling a story, or maybe a poem. And then, the host offers you a treat, usually candies or fruits. But we hope for the candies, he added with a glint of hope in his eyes. So what do you do on Hallows Eve anyway? Matilda asked. Well, me and my mum decorate the front garden with pumpkins and dummies made of old clothes, he said, his eyes shining. Bow ring, Matilda interrupted. How can you spend Hallows Eve without guising? You're coming with us this year, she declared. I usually go with my sisters, Ben muttered. Aren't you a bit too old to go with your sisters? Matilda teased him. Who else is coming? Asked Ferry. Well, last year I went with my dad. But now that I'm older, I guess I could go with you, said Matilda. I was thinking, Ferry said in a low voice, we could invite May to come with us. But Matilda burst into fake laughter the moment she heard May's name. When will you get it through your head that May will never be your friend? It doesn't matter if you're doing homework together. Didn't you notice she barely talks to you at school? Ferry tried to explain. I just thought. You thought what? That she'll join the weird ones? That's what they call us. Did you know that? Please. She's in Cecilia's group. The popular group, you know, she said, emphasizing the last words. Matt's right, Ben chimed in. She won't come with us. But Ferry still believed May would join them. He just had to wait a little longer for his friends to accept her as part of their group. So be it, he said. We're going together, the three of us. Great, said Matilda with a nod. They continued on their way, laughing and playing around. Let's stop for a while at the playground, Matilda suggested. We won't be able to play outside much longer now that winter is coming. The playground wasn't far from school, a small, old park that survived the town's construction. There was an old rusty slide, a few swings with creaky chains, and a rocker with a cracked board. But the kids loved it. The big linden trees were the best part. They could use them for shelter when it rained because of their thick leaves. And when they bloomed, the whole town smelled of sweet flowers. That day, a small crowd had gathered at the playground. Matilda was curious to see what was going on. To their surprise, they found Billy Pride surrounded by a group of children, all staring at his new gift from his dad. A photo camera. It was small, with a leather case, hanging from a string around Billy's neck. Unlike the old photographer's camera, Billy's was easy to hold with just one hand. But Billy wouldn't let anyone touch it, Not even his best friend, Danny Stevens. It's the latest model, Billy bragged, snapping random pictures. His finger hardly left the shutter. My dad got it from the big city. It cost him a fortune, he said casually. When Ferry and his friends stepped in front of his camera, Billy stopped and smirked. Ferry, move out of the frame. You're messing up the pictures. We don't care about your stupid camera, Matilda snapped. Billy ignored her. Ever since he got Lavender Sky's magical feathers, he kept his promise and left Ben alone. But he still teased Ferry whenever he could. Hey Ferry, are you dressing up for Hallows Eve already? Oh wait. With that face, you don't need a costume. Billy and the other children burst into laughter, but Matilda stopped Ferry before he could react. Ferry, it's not worth it. Remember what happened last time? Let's just go home. I'm not in the mood for playing anymore. Matilda was right. Ferry turned away from Billy and left, his friends following. Oh, one more thing. May's coming with us on Hallows Eve, Billy shouted behind them. Ferry's heart ached, but he kept walking. He didn't want to give Billy the satisfaction of his sorrow. A few days later, Billy brought the photos he took with his camera to school. The children gathered around him, some amazed by his talent, calling him a natural photographer and praising his skills. Ferry glanced at the photos with curiosity. They showed random shots from the playground, children playing, Danny making funny faces, and the trees around. But one picture caught Ferry's attention. It showed children on the slide. But behind a tree, there was a tall silhouette with a blurry face. It was taller than anyone Ferry had ever seen, like an acrobat on stilts. It was watching the children. Ferry stared at the photo. There was something odd about it. The figure was faint, like a tree shadow, but Ferry felt it was more than that. It gave him chills. Billy, what's that? He asked, pointing at the figure. Billy grabbed the photo from his hands and examined it. His frown showed he saw something odd too. It's just the light hitting the ground from a tree shadow, he said with the air of an expert. But you wouldn't understand. Did you see anyone weird behind the trees that day? No, just you three, Billy said with a smirk. Ferry didn't say anything else. But he couldn't stop thinking about that picture all day long.